Today I decided to answer a question absolutely nobody asked, yet somehow everybody in the server cared about within 30 seconds. What happens if you walk into Roblox High School looking like you own half the planet? Not rich. Not millionaire rich. I'm talking billionaire rich. The kind of character that looks like they accidentally bought the school during breakfast because somebody offered free shipping. So naturally, I threw on the cleanest black suit I could find, polished the shoes until they looked like mirrors, grabbed an expensive-looking car, and drove straight toward the school entrance, like I had a board meeting scheduled between chemistry and gym class. The funny thing about Roblox players is that appearances travel faster than facts. Nobody checks your bank account. Nobody asks for proof. They see a suit, a supercar, and enough confidence to walk through the front gate like you pay the electricity bill, and suddenly you've become the most interesting person on the server. Before I even reached the front doors, people had already started following me around. I hadn't spoken a single word yet. I wasn't doing tricks. I wasn't showing off. I was literally walking in a straight line, and somehow that qualified as premium entertainment. It felt like I'd accidentally become the main character of everyone else's afternoon. The first student walked over and asked if I was new. I figured if we're pretending, we might as well commit to the role. I simply answered, I recently transferred. That's all it took. Somehow that single sentence transformed into an entire backstory inside everyone else's imagination. Within seconds, another player asked if I owned the sports cars outside. Another asked if I had Robux to spare. Somebody else wanted to know if I was famous. I wasn't answering half the questions because watching people invent their own theories was infinitely more entertaining. One player confidently announced that I was probably the principal's son. Another claimed I owned Roblox itself. That's a massive promotion considering 5 minutes earlier I was standing in the parking lot trying not to drive into a tree. The rumors spread through the school like somebody had pressed a panic button labeled "Rich Person Detected." Everywhere I went, conversations stopped. Players turned their avatars toward me like sunflowers chasing daylight. I walked into the classroom expecting to blend into the background. Instead, I accidentally started what looked like a celebrity meet and greet. Students abandoned their desks just to stand next to me. Some waved, some danced. One player simply stared without moving for a full minute. I don't know what calculation was happening in their head, but I respect the commitment. The teacher eventually started class, and somehow I ended up sitting in the front row despite making absolutely no effort to get there. Every time the teacher asked a question, somebody answered before immediately turning around to see whether I approved. I wasn't grading them. I wasn't even paying attention. I was busy wondering why this classroom had more luxury cars parked outside than an international auto show. After class ended, I decided to test something. I parked my character near a bench and stood completely still. No movement, no typing, nothing. Within 2 minutes, a crowd formed around me anyway. Apparently, confidence now includes the ability to become decorative furniture. Players started guessing my net worth. The numbers escalated faster than auction bids. 1 million, 100 million, 1 billion, 10 billion. Somebody eventually declared I was richer than every player combined. That's an impressive achievement considering I hadn't even bought lunch yet. Eventually, I walked over to the cafeteria because every experiment needs snacks. Unfortunately, the cafeteria immediately turned into a social event. I couldn't even pretend to look at the menu without somebody offering friendship requests. One player proudly announced they had never seen someone dressed so fancy before. Another complimented the suit. Finally, someone asked the question I knew was coming. Can I have some Robux? There it was. The universal law of Roblox. Gravity pulls objects downward, and expensive avatars attract Robux requests. I politely explained that looking wealthy and randomly giving away currency aren't automatically connected. Surprisingly, they laughed, instead of getting upset. That was refreshing. The funniest interaction happened during lunch, when another player rolled up in an equally expensive car and parked directly beside mine. You could practically hear the invisible challenge music starting. Neither of us said anything. We simply stared across the parking lot while everyone else gathered around like two superheroes preparing for a dramatic showdown. Then we both got out, walked toward each other, and complimented each other's cars. The audience probably expected fireworks. Instead, they got mature financial discussions about imaginary vehicles. Sometimes the biggest plot twist is basic politeness. Later, I wandered toward the sports field because nothing says billionaire like awkwardly attempting school athletics while wearing a tailored suit. I joined a race against a group of students. Logic suggested formal shoes weren't designed for sprinting. Roblox physics disagreed completely. Somehow I crossed the finish line first. I don't know whether everyone else stopped running or whether confidence secretly increases movement speed, but suddenly I wasn't only rich. According to the server, I was also an elite athlete. My fictional resume kept growing without my permission. At this point, I realized the social experiment had evolved beyond clothing. People weren't responding to the suit anymore. They were responding to the story they'd written in their own heads. Every confident answer, every calm reaction, every ordinary action reinforced the character they believed existed. That's honestly fascinating. The avatar opened the door, but the attitude kept it open. I decided to raise the stakes. Instead of talking about money, I started complimenting random players. Somebody had a creative outfit. I told them. Somebody built a nice vehicle. I mentioned it. Somebody decorated their dorm well. I said it looked awesome. The response changed immediately. Instead of surrounding me because they expected free stuff, players started having actual conversations. Turns out kindness has a higher exchange rate than fake wealth. That's probably the least expected lesson to come from pretending to be absurdly rich inside a Roblox high school. Of course, there were still hilarious moments. One player insisted on becoming my bodyguard despite nobody posing any threat whatsoever. Another followed me around announcing my arrival every time I entered a room. It felt like having my own dramatic movie narrator. The billionaire has entered the science lab. Thank you, random citizen. I'm here to observe digital chemistry. Another player repeatedly challenged me to races because they believed rich people secretly drive faster on foot. I lost one race because I accidentally jumped into a fountain halfway through. Nobody questioned it. Apparently, billionaires are allowed mysterious fountain strategies. As the session continued, the expensive avatar slowly became background noise. People started treating me like another student instead of a walking wallet. That's honestly when the game became the most enjoyable. We explored the campus, joked around, compared vehicles, attended classes we definitely weren't paying attention to, and somehow turned ordinary school activities into complete chaos. At one point, half the server gathered outside simply because someone claimed I was about to reveal a secret. There was no secret. I waved. The crowd cheered anyway. I've never seen expectations defeated so successfully. Before leaving, I wanted one final experiment. I changed into a completely normal outfit. No fancy suit, no luxury appearance, no billionaire energy. I walked back into the same areas where everyone had been following me earlier. The difference was immediate. Hardly anybody noticed. Suddenly, I was invisible. Same player, same personality, different packaging. It perfectly demonstrated how quickly people judge based on appearance. Then something unexpected happened. A few players who had spent time talking with me earlier recognized my username. They walked over anyway. They weren't interested in the outfit anymore because they'd already gotten to know the person behind it. That ended up being the best part of the entire video. The billionaire disguise attracted attention, but genuine conversations kept it. That's a much better ending than simply flexing expensive cosmetics for 20 minutes. Walking out of Roblox High School after the experiment felt strangely satisfying because the whole thing started as a joke and somehow turned into a surprisingly entertaining social experiment. I expected funny reactions, a few Robux jokes, and maybe some exaggerated roleplay. Instead, I got an entire server inventing lore about my character, promoting me to billionaire, celebrity, athlete, school owner, mysterious transfer student, and possibly the principal's boss before I had even finished my first lap around campus. All because of a black suit, a nice car, and enough confidence to walk through the front gate without looking confused. That's Roblox in a nutshell. Sometimes the simplest idea creates the funniest moments. And if there's one thing I learned today, it's that looking rich is easy. Surviving the endless stream of questions, random followers, surprise bodyguards, parking lot rivalries, and spontaneous fan clubs is the real challenge. By the end of the day, I wasn't remembered because I looked expensive. I was remembered because I leaned into the joke, had fun with everyone, and turned a ridiculous premise into one of the funniest school days I've had in Roblox. Honestly, that's worth more than a digital billionaire's bank account.